All right, we're going to get started. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for all of you being here. We've had a great turnout today over the course of the day. My name is Brett Leonard. I'm the planning manager for the city of Ann Arbor. And I am super excited to have all of you here and our project teams, which I'm going to be turning over to a couple of them, Jamie Granger from Interface Studio and Oliver Kiley of Smith Group. They are helping the city with a couple of really exciting and significant projects. On one side of the room, you've seen our comprehensive plan and the progress that we're making to lay out our vision for land use in the city going forward. And then on the other side of the room, we have the downtown circulation study and talking about the downtown development plan. I am so excited that this is a super city planner nerdy thing, but you get to come here and give us feedback on more than one plan. I don't know about all of you, but you don't know how rare this is. It's so awesome. Usually we make it come out to like 10 different meetings for the plans. So we're going to give you a quick overview of the comprehensive plan and the circulation study status updates. All told, it'll be about a half-hour presentation. All these materials, as a reminder, are available on our various websites at the Comp Plan and the Downtown Development Authority. And afterwards, we don't have hours, but we have a little bit of time after this. Again, about a 30-minute presentation. So afterwards, if you have any questions, lots of folks in blue shirts. That's the best way we found that we can get to a lot of your questions. So if anything comes up during the presentation, jot it down and find one of us right after, and we can take you to the right board where we can really delve into your comments, feedback, or questions. So again, thank you very much. If you didn't get pizza as well, maybe there's still pizza back there, or maybe it's all gone. I'm not sure. There's still pizza, so grab a bite, enjoy the presentation, and again, thank you. First up is Jamie Granger. Again, with Interface Studio, they are the lead consultant on the city's comprehensive land plan project. Take it away, Jamie.
Thanks, Brett, and good evening, everyone. We recognize that this may be some people's first interaction. Let me see if I got this. Is this not working? Turn it on. There we go. Okay, thanks. We recognize this may be your first interaction with the engagement or with the comprehensive plan, so it may be useful to revisit just what a comprehensive plan is and some of the specifics from the resolution passed by City Council. So a comprehensive plan is a formal document adopted by City Council. It really outlines a vision and priorities for the future of Ann Arbor and really how it grows over time. So within the resolution, there were some very specific things we were tasked with looking into. So I'll just read through them very quickly. The first is to carefully consider and implement portions of the 820 plan. The second is, in the context of a largely developed city, make recommendations for adding new homes and densification in single-family zoned areas and other areas in zoning districts. The third is to develop recommendation and policies that promote fewer zoning districts that also have more flexibility. The fourth is a proposed land use framework that seeks to emphasize values, and they outlined some specific values for us to consider: affordability, sustainability, and equity. And then finally, recommendations and policies that undo and or seek to repair past land use policies and regulations that resulted in the exclusion of people. So to really help us in that work, we've been having a lot of conversations with you all in a variety of different formats. We've had a website throughout the process. We've had 35,000 views. We've had a survey, 3,000 participants, a variety of interviews, stakeholder groups, 7 public meetings, pop-up events. We've had check-ins with steering committee and planning commission have guided us through this process. All of that has helped us to begin to create the shared vision and values. So vision statement and comprehensive plan is really one of the core elements. It often takes the form of a long vision statement with really itemized out future desired outcomes, really in line with the resolution passed by City Council of creating a more simplified plan. We thought it might be useful to think about, rather than a long vision statement, something more like a vision slogan that could really work hand in hand with the values. So through our process, there's really been this reoccurring theme around the desires of people in Ann Arbor, really desire for more types of housing, diversity in housing, options in getting around, not only having to use your car, biodiversity and the natural features, a place that's really welcoming to all types of people and businesses. So we really settled on this idea of Ann Arbor for all that really kind of resonated with all those aspects that we've heard throughout the process. Again, slogan would work hand in hand with the values to really add specificity. So the City Council, as I mentioned before, outlined affordable, equitable, sustainable as key values for the city. They didn't actually define those, so we've been using the engagement process to help define those. Through the engagement process, I think most people have said those really resonated with them. Something that came up that maybe was missing is really thinking about the energy and vibrancy of the place and people. So we decided to add another value about dynamic, really recognizing that cities are always changing and most likely need to change to address some of these other values. So I'll read through these real quick. So in Ann Arbor, we strive to be affordable. We believe that all should have the opportunity to call Ann Arbor home and thrive, residents and businesses alike. Sustainable, we are committed to promoting balance between all our natural and human systems today and into the future. Equitable, we aim to ensure health, safety, and equal access to essential services and amenities for all, with additional resources for disadvantaged communities. And then dynamic, we aim to be a vibrant, continuously evolving city to meet the needs of all its people and communities. We recognize a vision statement that says Ann Arbor for all could be misconstrued as it's all things for all people and not really focused. Through the engagement, a hierarchy of these values has really been starting to form. This diagram really is how we're thinking about it conceptually. So all of these values are really intertwined, but affordability is really that foundational value that has come up time and time again. We need to find more ways for people to live in the city affordably. And it will lead to the most success in achieving some of the other values like equitable, sustainable, and dynamic. So really, again, affordable is really that foundational value that all the others sit on. So another important component of the comprehensive plan is the future land use plan. You'll see it on a map over there, or in progress map. So it's really a map that divides the city into different districts based on various different characteristics. So it's important for us as we're developing this plan to embed a lot of these values into the process. So we really see two key components of how that plays out. There are what are the things we're looking to protect. So it's really where the sustainable value and thinking about some of the natural features and systems. And then what are the drivers for change? That's where the affordable, equitable, dynamic, thinking about new opportunities for housing, commercial opportunities, amenities. So thinking about those drivers for change, in the broader development process, what can the city actually control? A lot of it is outside of the city's control. The thing that they can control are the land use and zoning policy. So within those confines, what are some of the goals that we're looking to achieve? We want to simplify and streamline the development process, think of fewer, simpler districts. We want to give more flexibility to districts throughout the city, allow more housing types of different parts. We want to align districts with building codes. So zoning policies are really reflecting other regulations around how buildings are actually built and are economically feasible. And then manage transitions between and change within districts. So really being responsive to neighborhood context and scale. So there's currently 34 zoning districts within the city. Again, we're trying to think about a more simplified zoning code. So we're thinking about 4 core districts, 3 of which are emphasize housing. So the low-rise residential district is lower scale housing, similar to the neighborhoods you see across Ann Arbor where most of the housing exists, but opportunities to add some more flexibility within those districts to provide different housing types. Mixed use transition, slightly more density focused on transit corridors, other major streets, and it really serve as a transition between a low-rise residential and what we're calling the mixed-use hub, which is really the most intensive type of development. It's really focused on transit hubs and other anchor destinations, things like downtown and some of the current TC1 zoning districts. Just going to get into a little more detail of some examples of what this could look like. I do want to preface this as this is all work in progress. I'm sharing some of these ideas with you. None of this is set in stone. But thinking about the low-rise residential district is really 35 feet, which is about a 3-story building, which is typical of what you see across the city. It's also a very typical and affordable type of building that's built, a wood-framed building that doesn't need elevators or sprinklers. Up to 4 housing units. So most of the residential districts currently allow a single-family house plus an accessory dwelling unit. So you're currently allowed to have 2. So this is kind of an increment more, allowing up to 4. Potential to rethink some of the setbacks and minimum lot sizes. Some of the current zoning districts have very large minimum lot requirements, so opportunities to add new housing by addressing some of those. And then thinking about limited neighborhood commercial opportunities. That's something we've heard throughout the process is people really have a desire to have commercial spaces, these neighborhood commercial spaces that they can walk to, which are currently outlawed in a lot of the zoning districts. And these are some examples from Ann Arbor. They're looks very similar to single-family houses or other things you see across the city, similar in scale, but potential to add more density that really fit into that neighborhood context. In the mixed-use transition, so it's going from 45 to 55, basically a 4-story building, so slightly bigger. As you move away from low-rise residential, you can get up to 80 feet. Again, that 80 feet is based on a typical building type and code of like a wood-framed building over a podium, which is like a very common building type. So again, trying to align some of these building types with building code. So this really allows for neighborhood scale buildings and mixed-use style buildings. And again, focused on larger corridors, places that have good access to transit and can really serve as a transition between some of these more intense uses. Again, these are all examples found within Ann Arbor, some of which you may recognize. And then finally, the mixed-use hub district. So this would be the most intense uses. These are the places like downtown. You can build up to 80 feet, but potentially higher, which is very similar to how the TC1 district height limits work currently. There's really 2 goals within this district: building off of places that have existing amenities, access to transit, places like downtown, but also incentivizing redevelopment in really underutilized commercial spaces. So large commercial shopping centers, lots of surface parking lots. You'll notice that the one example for that is not an Ann Arbor example, because there's not really an example in the city, but there are examples across the country of shopping centers redeveloped that provide commercial space, housing, new streets, new open space. And this is how it could potentially play out in the map. So you'll notice a few additional districts I didn't speak to. There's parks and open space, public space, which is really city-owned or University of Michigan-owned properties. What we're calling a flex business district. This is really kind of a reinforcement of the existing industrial districts. We see that there's some value in keeping some places for things that people don't necessarily like. And then the low-rise residential districts the geography is not really any different than existing single-family neighborhoods. It's just allowing more options within those districts. The mixed-use hub, again, building off downtown, slightly expanding the downtown, which is some of the feedback we've gotten throughout the process. Thinking about some of those larger shopping centers, the TC1 districts, but also thinking about the context of the University of Michigan growth, especially around North Campus. It doesn't make sense to build density around some of their planned expansion. So went through a lot of information very quickly. There's actually more information on the boards, as Brett said. We'll be standing by the boards. A lot of them are, to answer any questions, a lot of them are purely informational. We do have a few activity boards where we're trying to get feedback. We have a balancing priorities board right on this table here, which may move once we move the chairs. And then we want to get some feedback on the actual land use map, calling out some of the key proposed changes and seeing if you agree or disagree. We have a comment card floating around too if you have any open-ended responses. So feel free to fill that out. So just want to end real quick on the project schedule. So, we've developed some initial ideas. We have some goals and initial goals and strategies as well that I didn't necessarily speak to, but are on some of the boards over there. Trying to get feedback on those. Our next step is to really start to organize all of this into a cohesive document, see how that would all work. There's opportunities for more feedback. Eventually, we'll have a draft plan that will kickstart a public review process. That's really a state-mandated public review process. And then ultimately, that will be sent to City Council for adoption. So that's all I got for the comprehensive plan. I'll turn it over to Oliver, who's going to talk about some of the downtown work.
Awesome. Thank you, Jamie. We usually say hold the applause to the end, but that's okay. So I got to move the slide. So just switching gears, focusing a little bit more on the downtown. There's two projects Jamie mentioned at the beginning, but the DDA is going through the process of updating their development plan, and a lot of the work from the comprehensive plan will help inform the kinds of projects and programs that they're able to address. And then another parallel planning effort is the downtown area circulation study, which is also looking at transportation and mobility infrastructure downtown. And again, those project ideas can be advanced through the city's capital planning process. If you haven't checked in on this project before, there's really four areas of work. We're looking at the bicycle system, transit enhancements to improve transit service and reliability, the pedestrian environment, and then improvements to the street network overall in the downtown. And we'll go through each of these in a couple of minutes. Just wanted to highlight that the work for the circulation study is guided by a lot of the established policies in the city. So the carbon neutrality plan, the moving together towards Vision Zero, which is the city's transportation plan. Those are key elements. There's a DDA placemaking Elevate program. A lot of the conversations around affordability are all guiding this effort. And you can see some of the DDA's goals that are actually being revised through these processes to also be working in alignment with the comprehensive plan values. A couple quick snapshots. So as Jamie mentioned, we had done a lot of public outreach back in March and April through a series of workshops. We've had a lot of intermediate engagement events since. These are some of the key trends on these topics that we've been seeing. So on the bicycle connections piece, a lot of interest in better improving those connections downtown to the bicycle loop that exists downtown. Rather than adding a lot of additional connections in the downtown area, it's really about getting people to the downtown. Strong support for that. A lot of support for transit and seeing how that can be made more of a competitive and attractive choice for people and improve service for people who have to rely on that. The pedestrian environment one was interesting. When we met back in March, that topic was called Event Streets, and it was really focused on looking at how to support events downtown. Through the engagement process, it was clear that we needed to actually broaden that conversation and talk about a range of pedestrian improvements, not just the event side of things. The street network conversation was largely around two-way restoration. We'll talk about that on a few key street corridors and other safety improvements. And we'd also wanted to know, through the comprehensive plan process, what does the community see as downtown's role in the broader Ann Arbor community and even beyond? And some of these things speak directly to what Jamie mentioned. So more housing options, affordability, supporting a diversity of people, being able to live and work and play and recreate and do all of those things in downtown. And that idea that, downtown can really be a central anchor for the community. And how do we continue to make that a vibrant place? So those are a few goals. There's a lot of data on this board. The point of this is that we've been looking at a lot of data that looks at visitor trips into and out of the downtown. And just for context and for your understanding, what this is indicating is that the total number of people that are generally coming to the downtown to live or work or visit is actually back up above pre-pandemic levels, which is great. What's different, though, is the makeup of some of those visits has shifted. You know, we know that with work from home policies, there's not as many office employees perhaps working downtown as there were before the pandemic. So while some of those employee trips are down, we're also seeing more residential properties coming online downtown and more people actually coming downtown to visit. So that's kind of helping to compensate it, but the makeup is changing. Part of our work too, we also drilled in and looked at a lot of the recent kind of transportation projects that have been built downtown over the last few years. Look at First and Ashley Street, which were restored back to two-way. If anybody remembers, those used to be a one-way pair of streets. And it's interesting to see that we're actually seeing activity and visits on those streets going up faster where that infrastructure investment has been made compared to the downtown area or the Main Street area as a whole. Similarly, there's more activity and trips occurring on the bicycle corridors compared to the area as a whole. The DDA has a count program set up with counters. You can actually see the dashboard live on the website. Pretty amazing numbers, right? 27,000 bike trips recorded in June this year. So there's a lot of activity happening. And I think across all of the transportation topics, safety and comfort is like the number one thing. And so doing a lot of assessments, looking at what the impacts of projects have been to help inform what's coming next. And so again, two-way restoration, we're seeing a significant reduction in speeding along those corridors. It creates a more comfortable environment. We're seeing that despite there being a lot more bicycle activity on the bikeway corridors, we haven't seen any serious or fatal injuries for any mode of travel on the bikeway corridors, which is really great to see and in alignment with what we would expect. And this was an example in the Carytown area, if anybody remembers what that was like before, trying to cross Fifth Ave, going from most people not stopping for you, trying to get across the street, and now nearly 97% of drivers are actually stopping. So it's great to see those kinds of things. Okay, few details on each of these projects. And this information is all up on the boards as well, because I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. And you'll see some of these same kind of justifications repeat themselves a few times. But it's important to recognize that, in our community, about 30% of people don't have access to a car due to age, due to ability, due to, income or other socioeconomic factors. So if you can't get around by a car, how are we designing our streets and our systems to be able to work better for everyone? And of course, some people choose not to own a car for environmental or health reasons or for other personal reasons. So building the infrastructure is important. We also know that conventional, just striped bike lanes only are suitable for about 15% of people that are willing to bike on average. And it's not till you start building separated facilities that you start to see a majority of people, 60% or more, being at least willing to entertain the idea. And so the idea is that by building this connected network of bicycle separated facilities downtown and then from the outlying areas into the downtown, more people will have transportation options and choices to be able to access things. So some of the key kind of recommendation areas, obviously overall from a network standpoint, planning out a network of connections that makes sense and connects to the things that we want to. And then you can see some of the different treatments that we call all ages and abilities or low stress bicycle facilities. So the separated lanes, bike boulevards, which are more of like a traffic calming kind of idea on slower streets to make those more comfortable. And then in some cases, even where we're away from a roadway, creating more separated trails. So what we've been focusing on in the circulation study are really these numbered routes. You can see on this map, the solid lines is the downtown kind of bicycle loop of separated lanes that's built. Not looking to add, more density of additional separated lanes within kind of that existing loop area. It's really about those dash lines. So extending Catherine Street out to the east to the U of M Hospital campus, extending Division Street north across the Broadway Bridge, out to the trail that starts on Plymouth, extending Miller out to the west, and then extending the First Street Bikeway north over to Summit Street and be able to get access down to the tunnel and the border-to-border trail. And then number 5 is Washington Street. So looking at a bicycle boulevard that would connect out into the neighborhood and make that a calm street. And then there are a number of other corridors, South Main, Packard, that have pretty wide buffered lanes. The city's looking at some opportunities to further enhance those. On the transit piece, again, kind of a similar set of. Yep, we'll do questions separately later. Thanks. On the transit side, so as Jamie said, there's pressure for development and growth in the city. We're seeing that. And one of the challenges is that, if we're not providing other modes of transportation, how do we accommodate that growth from just a traffic standpoint and growth? So if we don't invest in transit, we're making it very difficult for people to choose other modes of travel. That'll put more cars on the road and make it worse for everybody. So the transit piece is really key, and we've been having a lot of conversations with AAATA and U of M's transit service about how to continue to build out this system as land uses change in the city. And again, I think from a transit standpoint, there's a major equity consideration here, right? So we know that 50% of people that are in poverty face some sort of transportation insecurity. Just how can they get to work? They may not be able to own a car or own a vehicle. They're relying on transit systems to get around. And again, the same number of people that don't have access to a vehicle. So the transportation and transit system, the bus system, is really critical. At the same time, it's worth noting that the AAATA has a long-range plan that's identified some major corridors for what's called bus rapid transit, which is much faster, kind of higher frequency transit service, as well as a number of priority routes. And those all need to come in and out of the downtown area. So how buses get through downtown efficiently is really important to their transit operations and how attractive transit is for people. So lots of kind of technical tools and methods for how to improve transit service. TSP stands for Transit Signal Priority, very jargony. Basically, it means that buses can talk to the street lights and the street signals to actually adjust the signal timing so buses can get through areas when there's a bunch of buses trying to get through. A queue jump is like a special little lane that a bus can get to so they can actually get in front of traffic and get through an intersection and help make all their times. And then looking at transit lanes, continuing to enhance a lot of our stop locations. So these are some of the ideas that we're looking at in the downtown area. So where some of these land, Huron Street is probably very long-term, but that's identified as one of the bus rapid transit corridors, may require some amount of dedicated transit lanes on Huron Street. So that's an idea that's coming up. And then looking at Fifth Ave and the connection up to Broadway and Plymouth as a north-south connection into downtown to serve the north side of the city. Closer to the Blake Transit Center, points 2 and 3, that's 4th and 5th Ave. Opportunities for that TSP, that signal to help buses get from, say, Huron Street into the Blake Transit Center more efficiently. So those are a few of those transit ideas. On the street network side, a lot of the conversation and planning work here has been focused around looking at some of our remaining one-way pairs of streets in the city and seeing, what's the opportunity or the benefit that could come from restoring those back to two-way travel. We know that, every year there's 10,000 new people that are coming into the city through U of M student turnover. A lot of visitors that come with that. The one-way streets are confusing, creates challenges, makes it harder for people to route from one destination to another. And, we know through examples like the First and Ashley Street project that two-way roads can make it easier to navigate. It actually improves safety and comfort. And we're seeing that reflected in the activity levels on the street and how that's in turn supported business vibrancy and vitality in the downtown. So street network recommendations, again, the two-way street restorations, looking at a few locations where we have signals downtown today that could potentially become all-way stop intersections in the future. There's been a number of those that have happened already, like Washington at Ashley and First used to be signals. They're all-way stops now. Where we are keeping signals, making sure that we have like the pedestrian countdowns and other changes to the signals to make that safe, and then improvements to intersections. So the big one, the two vertical lines, that's Fifth Ave and Division Street, looking at converting those to two-way from essentially Madison all the way into the south, all the way north up to Beeks. That means that Beeks Street would also have to become a two-way street to get that network to all work. And a big part of that is taking what we call the Broadway interchange, where Division, the Broadway Bridge, and Beeks all come together, and totally need to rethink and reconfigure that to make it safer. It feels like a highway on-ramp, but it's like the entrance into our city or into the downtown area. And then two intersections at Liberty and Ashley, and Liberty and Thompson. We've looked at that. Those seem to be good candidates for converting into all-way stops. Okay, last topic, just a couple minutes left. I think this was an interesting point. So in 2023, the U.S. Surgeon General declared an epidemic of loneliness and isolation as something that's really critical for our society to start to address. And one of those strategies was using public space and the public environment and the pedestrian realm as an opportunity to increase social connections and opportunities for just being part of your community and interacting with your community. And we've also seen that communities that make investments in their pedestrian environment, that draws more people, that promotes a sense of safety, helps reduce crime, that all has a positive impact on the business environment and the livability of a particular community or area. So as I mentioned earlier, this started as a topic looking at event streets, and it's really broadened to how do we make the pedestrian environment in downtown vibrant and thriving for everyone. So there's a handful of kind of recommendations here. The three on the left are more focused on infrastructure investments that would help support the pedestrian environment. So looking at other opportunities for more flexible streets, like many of you may have seen on State Street as a curbless street design. It's working well. There's a number of benefits that come from that, looking at other opportunities for those kinds of changes. Kind of re-upping our investment in some of the public spaces downtown. We also heard a lot about kind of just general placemaking and wayfinding, so that, if you are driving into downtown, how do you know to get to a parking garage? Once you get there, what's the experience and the comfort like going from the garage to whatever your ultimate destination is, and how do we make that something that's comfortable and maybe even enjoyable for people instead of something that feels like a barrier? And then the last topic is really around kind of the event programming itself and some of the seasonal street things that we see in the Main Street area. Some of those decisions are really in the hands of the business associations to figure out what those events are and how the street closures are managed. But the infrastructure pieces on the left can help support that and make those more successful where they're occurring. Again, a lot on this slide. I think the big moves are, identifying a lot of the public space downtown, Farmers Market, Sculpture Plaza, Liberty Plaza, places like that could be opportunities to reinvest in and invigorate those spaces. From a flexible street standpoint, the big one would be looking at Liberty Street from, First or Ashley all the way down to State Street, and really thinking about that as a major east-west connection between the Main Street and the State Street area, and making that a really vibrant corridor. And then a lot of the orange lines that you see are just those walking paths and connection points from, parking garages or other walking points into the downtown, and making enhancing those from a placemaking and wayfinding standpoint. Okay, so just to wrap up, next steps on the circulation study. Over the next couple months, we'll be putting together the draft set of recommendations. So your input tonight will help feed directly into that. That report will go to the Transportation Commission for review. And the plan, as we understand it right now, is that may get then appended to the city's transportation plan, the Moving Together plan. And that would then identify the kinds of projects that the city or the DDA can plan and program and put into their capital improvement plans. So that's kind of where we are with that today. So I don't have a closing slide. So with that, we have about a half an hour before the library starts to shut us down. So just in the interest of giving as many people as many times to talk to us and ask questions, we're not going to do any open questions. But yeah, find any of us in the blue shirts or with the pink plastic name tags around the room. Love to talk with you, and we can take your feedback that way. Thank you.